Okay, I'm going to do a quick rundown of how to install a virtual machine through the ISO file on VirtualBox. I'm going to go with Kali Linux today, but this would be virtually the same for any distribution you went with if you were using the ISO file. So let's go ahead and get started. For Kali Linux, I'm just going to go to my search engine and type in Kali Linux, and Kali.org should be my very first selection here. Kali is pretty good about this, and from what I've seen, Ubuntu is too. I don't know about other major distros. About just putting the download right in the middle of the page with a big button. So we're gonna go. So this would be your OVA file type download, and this would just be the one that you would download to be able to double click, and it just automatically machine's up and running. So we're gonna go with a bare metals install though, and do a totally 100% fresh install. This would be like I was putting a CD into my disk drive and installing it fresh onto my actual PC, not just into a VirtualBox. There's multiple reasons why you should know how to do this. One, because some functionality that's in OVAs don't work properly like they do with ISO files, and two, everybody should just know how to install their own OS at any given time, and this is basically the same with Windows, Mac, and Linux. They're all pretty much the same. If you're inserting the CD, follow the on-screen instructions. They're all pretty self-explanatory. So I'm going to go with bare metals. This is kind of a bigger file. It's 2.8 gigs, so I've already done mine, and give it some time. It'll take a minute to download. So now that I have the file, I'm just going to hop into my Oracle VM VirtualBox Manager, and I'm going to go ahead and go up to my tools and click New Machine. I'm going to name this machine YouTube, and I'm going to go ahead and, since Kali is a Debian distribution, I'm going to make sure I get Debian 64. All my VMs are saved in this area. You can change it. You can switch it to another hard drive within your PC if you'd like. You just make those selections yourself. This is the name that the machine is going to be called. As you can see, the names of my other machines over here. This is where it's going to be installed. This is the type of OS it is. And then this is the specific version of OS that it is. So Kali is a Debian distribution. So we're going to go ahead and go with that. This will be the amount of RAM that you're going to give the machine. So I'm going to go ahead and give it 8 gigs. 1,000 megabytes equals 1 gig. If you didn't know, you probably won't have as much RAM in your PC as I do. 65 gigs, overkill. And so I'm going to go ahead and give it 8 gigs. Now, there's a bar here making it very self-explanatory. Green bar, okay. Orange bar, red bar, you're dead. So let's not do that. But that's part of the fun, right? Breaking your machines as you're learning. You got to break things to learn. So we're going to create a virtual hard disk. I'm not going to use an existing one, and I'm not going to go on without a hard disk, of course. So I'm going to create a virtual hard disk for this VM. So between these three, VDI is VirtualBox's proprietary technology for virtual hardware. VHD is Microsoft's proprietary technology for virtual hard disk, and VMDK is VMware's proprietary technology for virtual hard disk. Now, the thing is here, this is totally up to you. I've heard nothing good about VHD. VMDK, I've heard, runs smoother, and I would have to agree, but I did have a mentor point out that these are proprietary technologies, so they will probably be slower to update within VirtualBox and have less support. I do know that VDI itself does have better redundancy, so I bounce between VDI and VMDK. That's up to you. Do your own research. Okay. So we're going to dynamically allocate the size here for our hard drive. What this means basically is instead of using fixed size, I'm going to give this VM 30 gigs. But instead of sucking up all 30 of those gigs immediately, it's only going to take what it needs to. And then over time, as I add programs in that take up more space, it's going to then expand. So dynamically allocated is the way you're going to want to go with this. So I don't give it the standard. Don't give it the standard 8 gigs. You can give it 10, give it 20. I'm going to give it 20. The reason being is because we're using dynamically allocated hard drive. It doesn't matter. It's not going to show up immediately. It's not going to eat up all of our space. Also, I've found that if you give it the regular 8 gigs, it will throw an installation error sometimes with the ISO files. So give it a little bit more space. All right, so now we've named it, we've created all that. Now we're gonna want to edit some of the hardware within the machine itself. So I'm gonna go to settings, I'm gonna go over here to, we're in general, I'm gonna go under advanced. Now I'm gonna change this to bi-directional for both of these because this is a quality of life thing. I will be able to drag from outside of my desktop into the virtual machine, or copy something on my actual hardware and copy and paste it into my clipboard and then paste it within the virtual machine. But these have to be enabled for that to work properly. Moving on to system. Okay, so all of this is set properly. Yep, all this is set properly. I'm gonna give it, so this is, you come under system and you go to processor. This is where you're giving it how many cores, how many processors you're gonna give it. I have 16 total thread count cores that I can use here. I'm gonna give it 4 just for a faster load time and boot time. Again, green bar, orange bar, red bar applies. Follow basic logic here. Don't fry your machine in the process. Now, I'm gonna do something under display here because I'm using multiple monitors, and this is also going to explain to you how to use multiple monitors and set them up during installation if you want to use a full screen dual monitor setup to feel more like you're in an actual environment. For me, this helps a lot. So I'm going to run dual monitors, and I'm going to turn my video memory up to 128 megabits and enable 3D acceleration because my graphics card supports it. So we're going to come over to storage now, and here's where we're going to insert that CD, correct? Okay, so I'm going to come to the under controller IDE. You can see the little CD. Go to empty, click it, go ahead, come over here, and let's grab our Kali Linux ISO file. Do not check this live CD DVD install. What this does is forces the CD to stay inserted, basically. So as of right now, in this version of VirtualBox, once the installation is done, it will automatically boot the CD out so that you don't have to back all the way out and eject this yourself. So it will automatically do that as long as you do not click this live CD DVD. Everything else in here, we should be good to go. We're running under a NAT network so that we have connect to the internet. Everything else in here should be good to go. So we're gonna go ahead and click OK. So now we have our CD inserted. We have the installation set up. We have it named. We've given it all of its hardware properly. Now we have to do the actual install. This is gonna take a little bit of time. This is the actual install. First time booting up the system. I'm gonna go ahead and bring it to full screen. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and do a graphical install. I'm gonna take you through step-by-step walkthrough of just the easiest, simplest way to do this. Graphical install is, of course, gonna be the easiest way to do it because I'm assuming that most people are used to Windows at this point. It's a GUI, it's a graphical interface. It's very simple and easy to use. Here's where you're gonna select your language. Here's where you're gonna select your country. Here's where you're going to select your specific language within that country. Most likely American English is broken as it is. And now we're doing the basic mount here to get everything ready to go. So what I'll probably be doing throughout this process of these loading bars, I'm just going to tell you right now, is I'm going to cut the video and restart them when a lot of them go through because I am not... what's the word I'm looking for here? I'm not important enough, and I am not entertaining enough to speak throughout the entire time of this installation. So with that said, just understand that when these bars start loading, I'm probably just going to skip to the installation being done. Okay, host name, I'm going to name it Kali here. Name it whatever you'd like. We don't have a domain. We're not part of a company or an org or a .com or a net or an edu or any of that. and give it the name of Kali again. This is the actual full username. So if you want your actual name here, this is where you want it. And then this is going to be the username that it pulled from my actual name that I posted on the last screen. Okay, password, I'm just going to give it Kali again. So make sure that you make a stronger password here so that nobody can get in. Usually 8 characteristics, upper and lowercase with special characteristics included is a pretty good format to follow. Nothing involving your family, your personal life, or anybody closest to you personal life, because your personal information is out there. I promise you, it's easy to find. Okay, here's where we're going to select our time zone. Just select whatever time zone you're in the part of the world. And let's go. Here's probably where I will start doing a lot of skipping of the screen. So real simple, guided, use entire disk. This is wondering how to partition the hard drive that we have in. How do you want to install this from here? Do you want to encrypt it? Which would be good if you're going to have personal information on this, so that people can't just take it and crack it. Okay, we're going to use entire hard drive, all files in one partition, and finish partitioning and write changes. Yes, continue. And I'll be back. Okay, so at this part, we're going to move into our software selection. So I'm going to leave everything that's checked currently: top 10 most popular tools, default recommended tools, desktop environment. The only thing I'm going to do different here, so these 3 right here, XFCE, GNOME, and KDE Plasma, these are difference in like desktop UIs basically. You are going to want to research these and get the feel for them and see which ones you like. There's nothing wrong with any of them. You might enjoy any number of them. Personally, I feel KDE is a little bit too slow for me. XFCE, I really enjoyed. I had a good time in it. I feel like it was intuitive. GNOME, though, I personally enjoy more than any of them. That's just me. I like the add-ons. I like the way I can move things, the way that I can enable things. All of this is just personally my preference. Here is where you're going to want to go do some research, find out which one you're going to like the most. I'm going to go with GNOME. This is a totally personal decision. And I'll be back. Okay, so this here is for your display managers. I'm going to go with GDM3 because it will allow me to have multiple monitors. As you can see here, multiple display managers can run simultaneously if they're configured to manage different servers. So for a single server setup like I'm about to run here for just my personal labs, I'm going to run GDM3 so that way I can have my dual monitors running nice and smooth. Okay, now install the Grub bootloader. This is just going to be how you're going to boot basically. UEFI partition boot recorder. So most people know that a UEFI is basically like your BIOS, how you edit things, and within your BIOS, it's a newer like GUI for that interface. Used to be all like command line and whatnot. Okay, so yes, we're going to want to install that. This is just telling you that there's no other operating system, and if there was an operating system on here, it would shut it down basically. So we're going to go with yes, and select our hard disk here because we need to select which disk to boot off of. And here it goes. This shouldn't take too long of a process at all. I think this whole process entirely from beginning to end, from finding it on the internet, installing it, to the point we're at now, took me about 20 minutes. It might take you a little bit longer, maybe 30, 40, who knows. But just understand that this is, your first installation, your actual real OS install, not using an OVA file, just double clicking and moving on. You're learning applicable skills here. So yeah, it's going to take a bit longer. So maybe 30, 40 minutes the first time doing it. You'll get quicker at it over that. And then just the loading screens will be stopping you from there. I think 20 minutes all the way through most of the install is what it took me. And that's including waiting on these loading screens. So not bad at all whatsoever, especially considering that Back in the day, Windows used to take hours to install, if you remember that. Yeah, it did. Okay, so remember that live CD boot option that I told you not to select at the beginning? So this is basically saying like, hey, we don't have to leave to eject the CD in any way, shape, or form. It's just going to reboot and bump the CD out of it by itself. So at this point, we're booting up. We're going to set up the desktop very quickly. I'm going to show you how to enable your dual monitors if you have them, and just do a basic, quick little update on the system. So we're going to log into Kali, and the first thing I'm going to do is go select display settings, and I'm going to change my resolution to 1920 by 1080. Boom, keep changes. Now, so I'm going to go into full screen here with Control F, and I'm going to click enter on OK to confirm it. So if I wanted to go to dual screen, I don't know if this is going to mess up my recording or not, so I'm not going to do it. But if I wanted to go into dual screen, when you open your display mode here, change your resolution to 1920 by 1080. Okay. Then if you want to go into, you have to be in full screen mode to do this the first time, then you can exit full screen mode and it'll be two windows you can drag around basically. But I'm going to go to join displays, and then I'm just going to set up the second monitor, and I'm going to hit apply, and then it'll jump over to my other monitor automatically because I have these set up the way they should be. I'm not going to do that because I don't know how it'll mess with my recording. So now that we have that out of the way, I like GNOME. I turn off these menus, animations. Usually I'll drag this bar over here, make it bigger. There's a lot of stuff you can do to personalize this. I'll do that in a totally different video. But one thing you do need to do, you've got everything set up, installed, you're ready to go right here. This is it, you're ready to go. But you want to sudo apt update and punch in your password. So you want to sudo apt update, and then after this you want to sudo apt upgrade, or you can run them together like this: sudo apt update and apt upgrade. So I'm not going to do this because you can see 767 packages. This is going to take a while, but you need to do this with your machine. Keep your machines up to date. It's part of security. It's part of all your tools being able to use properly. So just a quick little installation off of your ISO file. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any comments, leave them in the comment section, or hit the like button if you would. I appreciate it. It would really help. So yeah, thank you. Y'all have a nice day.